Hello, my name is Adam Bean and welcome to the 49th edition of Airhacks TV. So let's start with the content. So first, the web workshop was split into two parts. So the first one covers all the essentials, web stuff like JavaScript, CSS, service workers, and web APIs. And the second one explains how to build real-world applications without any third-party dependencies. And around the corner, this is the Java 8 workshop covering clouds and Kafka and whatever is not included in Java EE. So interesting, but not in Java EE. And I also announced the winter workshops. So there will be architectures, microservices, and performance. Okay, so this then there is. I also published a episode of Airhacks FM podcast with Johann Voss, and we discuss a lot JavaFX and porting JavaFX to ARM and iOS and Android and Gluon framework and beginnings of Java and Blackdown Linux Java. So it was just a freestyle conversation with Johann Voss. By the way, very spontaneous idea. What I could easily do, I will probably do it. I could actually publish the audio of this Airhacks TV as a podcast episode as well, so you can listen to it if you like. So in addition, of course, to the live stream here. So if you like the idea, just ping me, but I will probably do it. So there's not a huge effort for me. So we covered this. So let's start with the questions. So there were some leftovers from the 48th edition. So let's start with that. So we covered this, and let's go start with that. So Liatier asked me, that was 2 weeks ago, do you know any Java EE framework that add client service provider support for SAML SSO profiles? So service provider, yes, a Keycloak is the classic one. Keycloak from Red Hat. This is an open source. And it provides SAML support, and as you can see here, SAML 2.0, and you can have it as a Java library or a tight integration with the application server. So this was an easy one. A service provider, I mean identity provider or service provider. So I don't know what you mean by service provider. So it comes with how to call it, like an adapter for your realm of application servers. So it tightly integrates. So if you would use, for instance, the roles annotation, it would pick up the identity from the central store. And it also comes with an API, which is even accessible via JavaScript. And yeah, this is exactly what it does. Then the next one. Someone from Hamburg asked me, they have FX Java data binding and they use JavaFX and they would like to port it to web in near future. And now the question, how to approach that. And what they would like to use WebSockets and two-way data binding. And the question is it doable? So how to deal with that? And this is an example of the JSON. So in JavaScript, you don't have, to serialize or deserialize anything. It just comes like it is. It looks like this. And you get a nice JavaScript object back. But what Friffle would like to do is it would like to automatically bind the data here to UI. The question is what you could do. So I would actually start with web standards, of course, because it is a larger project. And if you would use a framework, you are depending on the framework. You will have to understand the framework and so forth. And data binding, I would start if you really, if the standards are not enough. Standards, I would mean just plain ES 2015 with string templates, for instance. And if this is not enough, I would take a look at lit HTML, and actually recorded a YouTube video about lit HTML. It's a nice little library, and it comes with kind of data binding. So what you could do is you would like to use WebSockets. So in JavaScript, you could just say, const socket equals new WebSocket, and you can connect to this WebSocket, and then there is on message. There is on message handler, and what you could do, you could just get the full object back from the server, apply it, pass it to the lit HTML, and call. I think the function is called render. And what lit HTML will do, it will just re-render parts of the template which really changed. It will never re-render the static parts. It will only re-render the parts which really changed. So what's the difference between lit HTML and something like Virtual DOM in Angular or React? So the main difference is there is no virtual DOM. It is just it just keeps track of the bindings. So templates result. This is the name. Actually expressions. It keeps track of the expressions, and re-renders only the changed expressions. So there is no memory overhead, and this is fast. And what I like the most is there are no external dependencies, and the full library is very tiny, so you can even understand the source code easily. So if someone, for instance, if Google would lose interest on lit HTML, LIT HTML, then you could use Hyper HTML, which is an older library, is very similar to it, or even write your own binding. So this would be my suggestion, and greetings back to beautiful Hamburg. So we did it. And now let's start with 49's questions. So the first one, SF Koi. I really enjoy watching these, but as they generally start, this is the airhacks TV, between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. for me. So not a huge problem, you have to wake up early. No, just joking. The problem is, and he asked me, what happens to 48th airhacks Q&A? So you should not rely on the availability of the airhacks TV on YouTube, because it takes time for me to cut and record it. It usually takes 1 hour to convert it, and usually 1 hour to edit it, and half an hour to upload it. So I need 3 hours of time. I try to do it right after the show. It is not always possible. The last times I have to fly to my clients. So if there's lot of work to do, I would just ignore the converting, because the live streaming is the main thing. But yeah, so this is what I can just tell. I cannot promise you that I will always, on time upload it to YouTube. And by the way, I uploaded the 48th edition today morning. I never was so late as this time, but yeah, what we can do, right? Okay, sorry for that, but yeah, and I think the idea may work for you, because if I would publish the audio, this is less work for me, so I can republish the audio as a podcast in addition to the live stream, in addition to YouTube, so this could solve the problem as well. So the next one. They are using a WebStart for our flagship product, which is a bit dangerous, because, as he states, Java 11 will deprecate WebStart. So do you have any recommendation for easy deployment of Swing app to multiple end users in the absence of WebStart? So what I did, I would say 10 to 5 years ago, so it really hard to tell right now, is a long time ago, we just packaged everything as a zip and provided as a download to the clients. And this worked surprisingly well in multiple countries. So we just packaged the JRE, the Java runtime environment. We deleted whatever we didn't need it, and then packaged the app with the Swing app. So the Java JRE with the Swing app, and shipped it to the client. What you could also do, you could use Docker, for instance, and Docker doesn't work, wouldn't work because it's a client. But if it would be a server part, you could use, of course, Docker to distribute the stuff. And this part wouldn't work because it's JavaFX UI. Docker is not that suitable for that. And there was, I think it was called JavaFX deployer or Java deployer. But what you can do also use Java 9 Jigsaw and create a module and ship the modules. So this is what you can do to ship everything. So On top of that, what I did even longer time before, I used OpenJNLP project. So we used the project, and it is an ancient project. So it should be, I don't know, 2003, around 2003. And this OpenJNLP project is a freestyle implementation, or freestyle a clean room implementation of WebStart. And we used the source code back then, and use it as a base for our deployment strategy. So you could use something like this as well. And of course, so WebStart is going to be deprecated, but it will not disappear immediately. So okay. So, and the next one, what is your opinion on Oracle dropping such big aspects of Java ecosystems in relatively short period of time? I wouldn't see it as relatively short period of time. I mean, Oracle bought Sun 9 years ago, and JavaFX. If you look, at the announcements from Oracle, there were no JavaFX news for multiple years. So there was some, cosmetic changes, but not it's a big deal. So there was not a huge announcements about JavaFX. And I have to say, for me, it was clear that is going to be deprecated in one point of time. Why this? Because we have Jigsaw and the module support, and the fact is that the community is more interested in HTML5 and web than in JavaFX. I like JavaFX, I like Java, but everyone talks about web. And therefore, Oracle says, okay, before we invest too much money in JavaFX, we just drop the support and let the community step in, and let's focus on clouds and all the web stuff. So this is what Oracle does. And for me, it was clear that it will happen. And there was also, I think it was Java 1 where Oracle announced JavaFX or not announced. They demonstrated JavaFX could run on iOS, on iPads. I think it was the first Java 1 not in the Moscone Center. It was the first Oracle Java 1 or the second one. And then it didn't came out. And then we ask, why it didn't came out. And they say, okay, because there was no enough community interests. So we didn't, follow that route. So if you're really excited about JavaFX, you should write emails and do something with JavaFX to show Oracle we are really interested in the technology. So this is how it is. Will Java remain a stable platform as it was in the past? I think so. It will change a little bit because we get more Java releases than in the past. So the pace is going to be faster. And the LTS support will also change. I don't think there is LTS support for Java 9 yet, I think. Yeah, and for me it's as well. So I like Java and Java E because there were no breaking changes. This is also the big point for me. Why I'm using Java E? Because there were no breaking changes. Okay. Let's take a look what happens here. Nothing happens in the chat. And Twitter is also silent. Oh, what I forgot to mention is there was I was also interviewed to participate in a podcast, Oracle Developer Podcast 351. It was published 18 days ago, and it was about software complexity. So if you like, take a look at that. Okay, so we have it. And by the way, just take a look. The recent tweets were all about where is the 48th edition of airhacks TV. Okay. Now, M. Hululani asked me, they state they use JSF to use Angular frontend and JAX-REST backend, and they moved from JSF to Angular, and the problem they have is that there are lots of sessions created, and they use the session listener, I think HTTP session listener, to track that, and the question is what they can do about that. So it's strange if sessions are started, it's probably you have a session cookie or URL rewriting, which is the problem. And how to tackle that, what you could use, you could write a servlet filter, which just returns empty session, for instance, or if there is a session, it throws a runtime exception, but you already track that. So this is not a huge problem. I mean, if client attempts to start a session and your servlet somewhere does something like, session or request get session and true, you will get a new session. This is how it operates. To my knowledge, there is no way in standard Java EE to disable sessions. They will be started. What you can disable in some application servers, you are error rewriting. And what you can do, you can delete cookies. What you could also use, you could use HTTP request wrapper and return null session. You could write a HTTP servlet filter in Java 8 or servlet filter in Java EE 7 or 6 prior to this, and check whether there is a new session and throw in an error or exception, and or immediately invalidate the session if you don't like exceptions. So you can get the session, like request get session with false, do not create one, but get already existing one. If the session is not null, just invalidate the session. This should work. So I think the last one would be the most robust. Just try to find the session. If there is a session, invalidate the session. The method is called invalidate. Okay, now screencast about Java EE testing. I'm not sure whether it was screencast what you looked at or the Java EE testing workshops. So there is also Java EE testing, I hope, .com. Yes. And in this workshop, there's the in this online workshop, it just the whole workshop is all about testing. And I don't know whether you look at that, you watch this workshop or one of my YouTube workshops. The answer will differ. And so I'm really glad you like that. And you ask me, what about JAX-RS with JWT JSON Web Token? How to test that? So what you could do, for instance, if you don't like, to create a JWT. So first, if you would like to create JWT token, what you can do, there are enough Java libraries which create JWT tokens on the client side. Then you could use framework like JMH, Java Micro Benchmark Harness, which was also used in the workshop, and to create the JSON Web Tokens and send them over the wire. So this would work. What you can also do, you could, for instance, create another JAX-RS resource which ignores the JWT tokens, ship the resource with a war, and then just pick from the other wars just the business logic and expose that. So this is what I did actually in the workshop, not with a JAX-RS resource, rather than with a servlet. Of course, you will have to use different path, otherwise you will get a collision. So so the question is, and you don't even like to do the stress test rather than system tests. And in a system test, you can just create the JSON Web Token on the client side. So there should be not a big deal. So just try to find, if you go to JSON Web Token IO, you should find Java libraries somewhere. So .NET, and somewhere Java. So there are Java libraries, Java JWT 301. And there are multiple ones, so just pick one which you like, and you could create the JSON Web Tokens on the client side. I hope it answers your question. Okay. And then, of course, you would create in JSON Web Token in the before method, and in the test method, you will just test hand. So we had the question already with the service provider. And then the last one, surprisingly, is about query caching, Java EE and query caching. And the question is, how to, is it possible to use query caching with JPA, and they use cache, which is external tools to JPA, and is the way to cache query results in JEE, JPA application. So if you take a look at Eclipse link, it comes with query result cache out of the box. So, and what you can do, you can say, I would like to have, result cache of the value of 500 entries. You can do the same with Hibernate. So if you go to Hibernate, so there is a similar mechanics behind the scenes. So this is the old one, the old cache. You could use Infinispan, or you should even use Infinispan for now. And the problem with that is, long time ago we used the commercial toppling distribution with query caching, and the question is now, what happens if the database changes and you are searching with the query parameters? And you would actually expect to have, the changed results from the database as well. But what happens here, what the tools are doing, like the name query plus the parameters, make up the key, and the key is going to be stored in something like in a map, and the value is the query result. So if the database changes, you won't recognize that. And back then, there were different approaches. The toppling tried to search the database first and then the cache, but if you do something like this, it cannot be faster. So be aware of that there could be some consistency issues. So for read-only it works, but if someone modifies the database, what you should do, invalidate the cache. But it is not a part of... This is not a part of the Java specification. It is a part, but it comes with Eclipse Link and Hibernate. And so you can just use it without modifying your source code, but you are going to be dependent on the functionality. What you also get from Java EE, now it's a standard, there is a cacheable annotations, and the cacheable annotation is something different. So the whole entity is going to be cached with the values, but the keys, so find by ID will hit the entities, and complex queries will always go to database, fetch the primary keys, and then you get the entities from the cache. So it's like a hybrid solution. So the query cache, you will have to use built-in, or you can use built-in JPA implementation. So what you can of course also do, use Infinispan or Hazelcast and do it by yourself. You can say, okay, I'm not caching on the JPA level. I would like to cache, on the boundary level. Would also work. So let's take a look on. Please refresh the questions page. Okay, 49th. Please. Cool. Uh, 30 minutes ago. So, hard to tell. Please take a look at the Java EE page. I want to achieve the following. Authentication mechanism is not called when accessing resources of resource. I try to use web indicator security concept, but it's ignored, and security mechanism is invoked for every request to resources. What you would like to have is, you would like to have only to protect certain resources, and if you use the Soteria authentication mechanism, it is always called. In the HTTP authentication mechanism, there is a request, and I think you will have to match it by yourself. I don't think it is possible to use both at the same time. So I would need some time to research. I cannot tell it right away. But I know what you mean is you would like to protect just resources in WebXML, and only for these resources you would like to use Soteria, for instance. What I would do is just create an issue in Soteria GitHub account, and the Arjan Tims, I hope it will immediately respond to you. It's a nice guy, so I would do this, and for now I had no time to research this. Sorry for that, but I know what I mean. It's an interesting question, a very good one. How you could do that? So a hack which will work in the HTTP authentication mechanism, you get the access to the request, and with the request you have the URI. So you can then check the URI and do this by yourself with an if statement. So this, I think, will work. But it would be not a clean solution if you would like to use WebXML. But I think the problem is, I didn't use a WebXML for a long time already. So the question is it worth to use WebXML for that? So I will have to think about this. What is actually the added value to have a WebXML if you already have Soteria? So this is actually the overarching question. So doesn't make sense to use WebXML security settings if we have Java 8 security Soteria? So this is actually an interesting question to answer. Okay, so thank you. No interactive questions. It was one of the fastest airhacks TV. Thank you for watching. See you at upcoming conferences, workshops in Munich, and probably even at upcoming podcasts, airhacks FM. So thank you for watching, and bye.